Someone is coming back to Elm Street. He is not friendly. He is not patient.
Kill for me.
And he is not a welcome visitor.
No!
But he has something terribly special for the new kid on the block.
It started to happen again. Dad! I'm in trouble. You've had some scary dreams, okay? Help!
Daddy can't help you now.
There's something inside him.
Fight him! You are not afraid of him. He doesn't even exist.
Freddy Krueger is back on Elm Street.
Get out of here, Lisa!
Jesse, fight him!
Watch out for him. He'll be in your neighborhood soon. A Nightmare on Elm Street, Part 2.
You are all my children now.
Freddy's Revenge.
All right, hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of Back to the Blockbuster with your host Gaius and Jackson. Jackson's not on with us today; he's working right now, and plus, this episode kind of came together at the very last minute. But he said, "Go on ahead and do it." But in his place today, we have someone who hasn't been on the show for a while. We get JC Merc with the movies back on with us, who used to be on a lot of our anniversary episodes, and is going to be on with us right now to talk about A Nightmare on Elm Street 2, Freddy's Revenge, which turned 40 on November 1st. It was released November 1st, 1985. Welcome back to the show.
Happy to be back, and I always love podcasting with you.
I know, and this one was one I kind of liked. I knew it had a date in November, and for some reason I blanked on it being like the first of November. But when I saw it, I was like, oh, I threw it up. And then, a few people did message back, but you hadn't been on the show in a while. And I'm pretty sure you have some pretty, solid opinions on this one. And I know I do too. It's one that I didn't really enjoy a lot when I was younger, when I was like getting into these movies. I actually used to think of the earlier ones. I used to think it was like the worst sequel of the bunch before, Freddy's dead and all those ones.
Final Nightmare, and besides the remake, Final Nightmare and Dream Child are definitely battling for that worst of the end ones.
But over time, I think after reading more about it and then confirming this kind of subtext that as I watched the movie more when I was getting older, that the subtext that I was seeing in the movie was very much true, and it was there. And some people trying to either initially deny that it wasn't there, and then I guess over time being like, okay, yeah, this was there. Now, whether or not it was put in on purpose when they first made it,
we could definitely get into that.
I think that goes back and forth, but I think there was a bit more clarity in 2019 when they released the documentary Scream Queen: My Nightmare on Elm Street, which was basically about Mark Patton's journey through making this movie, at the time being like a closeted gay man, and making this film, and then all the kind of homosexual subtext that was in the movie, and then having to come to terms with how that felt then, how that felt in the subsequent years after the film was released, and then I guess getting a bit of validation and some vindication when the movie over time became a cult classic and became really big within the gay community, and because of some of the things that it was trying to say that were maybe a bit, that some of that seriousness may have been not noticed at first when the movie came out, but what Freddy could, because Robert Englund always talks about what Freddy represents in all these movies, and in this one he has said in many interviews, because I love that Robert Englund, even in regards to what might be considered some of the worst entries, finds something very profound and nice to say about each and every one of them. And with this one, he really thinks that Freddy in this film really represents this repressed kind of closeted thing within Jesse that is trying to, on Jesse's end, trying to come out, and that's his fear, and that's his greatest fear, is that being kind of exposed, right? So that's what Robert Englund thinks that is going on with Jesse throughout the
And I
entire
think,
movie.
and I think he either I'm not to like quote him directly, but he either said it was his favorite performance in the character, or I think he said it was the scariest. It's one of the
Scariest,
two.
one of the scariest. Yeah, he
Yeah.
mentioned that too. I think he talks about that in the over expansive documentary, "The Never Sleep Again."
Oh, so good.
Where
I love
when they
watching that one.
I do too. I actually rewatched. I didn't watch the whole thing, but I kind of picked installments to
Hmm.
watch, and I did watch. I watched 3 and 4, and then a little bit of 2 because we knew we were going to do this. But the 3 and 4 were the parts I watched over like the kind of like later part of the spooky season. But yeah, he had like a lot of nice things to say about it. I think it has really been reassessed over time by a lot of people who
For
really
sure.
think it's a lot better than they originally thought. May not still be considered one of the better sequels of the franchise, but I mean,
Oh,
maybe one that was
for me it is.
maybe one
It's in
that
my
was
top
maybe.
four.
Oh, okay, okay. Well, maybe one too that was a bit misunderstood and is a bit more understood today, which I think is I kind of do love when that happens with certain movies when time is very kind to some of these films that
Yeah.
really didn't get the proper assessment that they should have gotten when they were released, and then with time and growth and new audiences kind of picking it up
Yeah.
and realizing what I mean, this isn't the case with this film necessarily, but I do love when like a new audience sees something deeper within these movies, and like there might be a writer director that was like, "That's not what I was intending," but if that's what you picked up on, then like that's great.
Hmm.
But I think with this film, with director Jack Shoulder and then David Chaskin, I even watching Never Sleep Again, and then watching I watched a little bit of Scream Queen again for this, kind of seeing where this over time in interviews it was just kind of like back and forth about
I think it was
was
intentional.
was the homosexual like subtext intentional or was it not? and to me, watching it like as a fully formed adult, I don't see how you can see that it was intentional. Because there's just
Exactly.
so much in the movie that is just so blatantly this is what we're trying to say. Which I think if they would have been upfront from the start, I wonder if the reception would have been any better. But like at the beginning, but this also was coming out in the time in like the mid '80s when this
AIDS
lifestyle
epidemic and all that stuff.
AIDS epidemic, all that stuff, and this lifestyle wasn't necessarily like it's still a struggle for many of them today, but like it was a lot harder then. So I wonder if like even if they were upfront about it, if the reception would have been any different. But it might have been easier on someone like say Mark Patton,
For sure.
who
They might have made him. They might have made him
Yeah.
tone it down, honestly, because look at Cruising. Cruising was supposed to be way wilder than what it was, but it was like,
yeah
it was still like mainstream, because obviously the goal for this Freddy sequel to come out a year after the first one was for it to be a box office success. If they knew that it was deliberately trying to be like queer, they probably would have made them tone down. But I guess the fact that it wasn't sold as like an allegory for like sexual repression, like it probably allowed them to get away with more stuff.
Yeah. But for those that don't know, that we said it's directed by Jack Shoulder and written by David Chaskin. It stars Mark Patton, Kim Myers, who looks like we've over the years a spitting image of Meryl Streep back in the day.
I hear that a lot.
I've always wondered if Meryl Streep knows who this girl is and like looks at old pictures of her and goes like, "Oh wow, she does look like me in my younger days." Like she looks like they could be sisters, like full on. And I know that's one of the reasons why she was cast apparently too, is that they were like, "Oh, she has a striking resemblance to her." So like, there's that. Of course, Robert Englund returns as Freddy Krueger, but almost didn't happen at first because Englund said at the time he was already kind of feeling ownership of the character and like could see where it was going. I guess him and his people asked for a little bit more money than New Line was willing to give, so they're like, "Well, we don't need him to play Freddy Krueger. We just have a stand-in or a stunt guy do it because he's covered in makeup and all that stuff, right?" So then they filmed one scene with that said stand-in, which is the shower scene with the two.
I read that recently.
Kind of walks out of the smoke or whatever, and you could tell it's like the it's more of a lumber the way he walks. You could tell it's just like not an actor playing that role, and I think that's why people make this comment too about people that stand in to play like all the stuntmen that play Michael Myers or Jason Voorhees, that the people who are the best in those roles are people who take it seriously as an acting performance rather it being like a
Mhm.
stunt kind of like performance, because there's more to the physicality than just walking around and all that. And on the other side of that too, with someone like Robert England, who was like a classically trained actor, this is someone who could act, and that role needed someone that can act, even if it meant just in the bits of just watching him walk from like frame to frame. You needed someone that could actually pull that off. So thankfully, they recognized that
Yeah,
mistake and
because
gave
yeah,
him probably
'cause-
a little bit more of what he wanted and asked him to come back. And of course, Robert Ressler is also in this movie, who said that uh, he was like when it came to like the homosexual subjects, because a lot of it does not
involved
all of it,
him.
but some of it of his character, him and Jesse as friends and all that, especially towards like the climax of the movie. But I also love that he's just so positive in like his reaction to it, and him and Mark Patton seem like they're actually pretty good friends in like the years since this movie came out, and it shows him a lot of support as well. But it follows Jesse Walsh, who's played by Mark Patton, and he's a teenager who begins having recurring nightmares about Freddy Krueger after moving into the former home of Nancy Thompson, who was played by Heather Langenkamp in the first film. Like we said, it was released on November 1st, 1985, grossed $30 million at the domestic box office on a $3 million budget. However, it received mixed reviews from critics upon release, with many comparing it unfavorably to its predecessor. Um, I do like to know what you kind of thought about it when you first watched it, and did you feel kind of strongly about it then, and then maybe or not as strongly, and then felt strongly about it in subsequent viewings, or what was your kind of take on it then, and like how do you feel about it now? I guess.
Um, I've always liked it for sure. Like the first time I saw it was when I was around the mid 2000s, was when they released all the versions. Remember when they had like that red cover?
Yeah,
They released a bunch of them. So like I was in high school, so it was like every time I got like some allowance, I was literally going every other week to Circus City to buy a few entries. And I've always liked it, but the gay subtext I definitely didn't catch on as a 14-year-old. That's something I caught on more as I got older, and then like seeing the Scream Queen documentary definitely opened my eyes. Like, whoa, this like like when they're the way they talk about it, like it makes you analyze a lot of stuff that you might have not thought much of in terms of like the queerness it had and what it meant. But like I said, like I mentioned earlier, it is in my top 4 favorite of the franchise. Like I go the OG, I go Dream Warriors and New Nightmare and this. Those are my top 4 favorites.
Okay.
And yeah, I've always been a fan of it. But when I first saw it, I will say I probably thought I like Dream Master a little bit more. But over the years, I've just enjoyed like a lot of the unintentional comedy of this movie. Like it's really a really funny movie. Besides, like no, obviously Freddy became the punchline king and Dream Warriors. That's when they really like got more of the MTV style, like with the way all his one-liners. But like this movie is very dark for sure. A lot of the scenes, like the shower scene, is really dark. Like the way Freddy starts coming out of Jesse's body, the practical, those are really good, but it's also really fun. And obviously the dance scene is incredible.
Yeah.
that is the most 80s thing in that movie. And I think Dave in his podcast, he mentioned like it was like to move risky business. He was trying to have his Tom Cruise moment.
Yeah, that's what they wanted. That's why it was a big thing.
For sure.
Except a song using a song that probably isn't as well known. I don't even know what the song they use in this.
I love it. It's so good. It's perfect.
It's so cheesy, and I just love that he's been told to like box up all the stuff from his room where they just moved into the house, and his dad wants him to get like all these boxes out of his room and like all the stuff packed up and put away, and like he's supposed to be going to see Lisa, who's played by Kim Myers, and he's on his way out, and his dad's just like, "Oh, I told you to get that stuff done." And he's like, "Oh, I'm only gonna be gone for a little bit," and he's like, "Nope, go back up and do it." And like the dance scene almost feels like the way he's just kind of pouting and defiant is just so funny that he's kind of like almost like, "I'll show you, Dad." It's like kind of like just
exactly,
and it's like that way.
And the way it was shot is like come on, like it had to be definitely implied, like the queer stuff that they tried to, like you said, they denied at first for a couple of years. Like some of the shots, like the shot when he pops the thing out of the stove is like, very,
holding it around his crotch, and then like he's
exactly.
like kind of gyrating it, like
And like, come on, that's like it's like a whole like total like male gaze of a one man seeing another man. Like it's a lot of, like I said, it's definitely a lot of stuff implied and it's very, very in your face.
And he throws on his black sunglasses, which aren't even Ray-Bans. There's no even label on them. So like they went with a cheaper brand for their risky business moment. He throws them on and he like snaps his fingers and like, you know, it's endearing now. I think it's like it's funny in the sense that like it's just so, you know, interesting that they tried to like kind of get away with this is like the wrong term, but like have no one commented on it in a way it was like, oh, this is odd to like have your main protagonist like be doing this in the scene, and then of course have Lisa and his mother walk in on him while he's doing this whole little dance sequence in his room.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's when you see. I want to say that's when you see the poster that says "No girls allowed" on this door, which also is another fun like more.
I've missed that one. I gotta keep an eye for it next time.
Yeah, there is a poster as well that says "No girls allowed." He has a game in his room called Probe that you can see like when he's going through, like I think it's when they find like the journal and stuff that Nancy had. You know, there's like all these like little things that are like little Easter eggs throughout, and then they become more obvious like hints that like something more is going.
For sure. Like to me, the two most obvious scenes is obviously the shower scene with the gym teacher. Like,
sure, yeah,
it's very homoerotic in the way it's shot and when it implies, and also how he stops making out with Lisa and he runs to Grady's.
Yeah, it says he has to go.
Like, come on, like you would want your girlfriend there.
Now, for those who like remember, are even if you're just listening to this and you haven't seen the movie, whatever. There's this whole like kind of make out, almost hookup scene, and he's slowly turning into Freddy. Freddy is coming out of him, which is like another big
tongue.
So this is like the tongue thing. Like his tongue falls out. Like it's like very like grotesque, like on
Freddy looking,
and then he realizes that like Freddy is coming out, and he needs to get away from her for her safety. But in the scheme of like this subtext that they have going on to the movie, he doesn't explain this to his girlfriend. Really, he just kind of leaves her at her party, and then goes to Grady's house, who is grounded and not at the party, and basically is telling his best friend that like he needs to sleep with him, not literally, but like he needs to like sleep in his room, and he needs him to watch him, so like he does like nothing bad happens. And I think like when Grady's trying to like kind of suss it all out, and he's like when he says something along the lines like where he was at, he's like, "Hey, you want to sleep with me?" And he's like, "Yeah." And he's like, until like it's kind of passes or whatever. It's so on the nose, but like it does kind of work for what they're trying to say about this thing inside of him that is coming out and is evil to him, and he doesn't understand it, and that is what Freddy is trying to do. Now, the how this is being done is always a little confusing to me, because like sometimes I can't tell in this one like what's the dream and like how like when like we're supposed to be seeing like Freddy kind of, because there's certain times where like Jesse will wake up and he's wearing Freddy's glove and he's out of the dream, it seems.
Yeah.
And then, of course, the tongue thing with Lisa, that he's not in the dream there, but maybe it doesn't even matter at that point because Freddy is like slowly coming out of him.
Yeah.
That was the issues that Wes Craven had with the movie. When they were going to like have him possibly direct it, and he saw the script and was like, there's the rules that he kind of created for Freddy about in the nightmare and out of the nightmare just weren't being followed, and like he hates the pool scene, I guess, in the film.
I do
he hates it entirely because you now have this man who only way you originally could really bring him into your world, right, was if you pulled him out of your dream, right? And that's something that
Yeah.
Nancy had discovered in the first one. In this one, there's no real rules to what he's doing, and he emerges at this pool party in front of everyone, and now he's not this like secret in your subconscious. Now he's just kind of like out in the open, and Wes Craven was never really happy with those like breaking up his kind of sacred nightmare rules for Freddy. So that's why I always said I was a little confused sometimes when it came to what was going on in terms of like Freddy and Jesse during certain moments that may not have been a dream or is a dream or like that kind of stuff. And I don't know if you had any more clarity on it.
That's also like with Grady's death scene is like Grady right away says, screw this, I'm going to sleep. And it's like there's no cutaway. It's just he goes to sleep and it's the same shot that Jesse wakes up and starts realizing. I'm like, usually like with the first one, like we get some type of creative edits where it shows us that, okay, now we're in the dream sequence. Like the way that, I mean, obviously when you see the movie Numb, you pick it up, but the first time you're just like, okay, did Jesse just wake up right now? Like right as Grady woke, and then it's like when you see when he starts coming out of Jesse, it's like, okay, that's when you realize it's a dream. But like definitely I get what you mean. Like the way the movie's edited is like it could sometimes be hard to know when the dream starts and everything like that.
Yeah, and then the scene, in which I agree with you, the scene where he emerges out of him is kind of like a masterclass of practical effects. It still looks pretty good.
Amazing. Like when the eyes
eye and
coming out of the throat. Oh my god,
so good. And then like his head's coming out of his stomach. He basically like slices Jesse open to like kind of come out of him, right? And then that's when he kills Grady, and it's a really cool scene. It's like probably the best scene in the movie.
Yeah, best kill for sure.
But then I'm just like, so he does that. There's this whole big elaborate like, coming out of Jesse thing, right? And then Grady's dead, but then we cut back to a shot of like fully, put together Jesse, and then I guess shots of him looking in the mirror and then like seeing Freddy. So like I was always like, okay, like what I guess what we're seeing or like what they're seeing at this point when Freddy is like taking him over is it's
the dream sequence portion.
Yeah. And then of course this isn't like Jesse like hopping out in the pool party. They're all seeing Freddy. They're not seeing Jesse do it. But does Jesse as Freddy see himself as Jesse? Or like they don't really have like a lot of like they don't really make it clear as to like the this kind of like invasion of his body and when is Jesse there and when it's Freddy there and like all that stuff. So I've always thought that was like the one thing in the screenplay that didn't really get
I guess
completely ironed out before they did it, but I don't know.
Yeah, because I guess like no, I mean you have like I get definitely what you're trying to say. Like, I guess probably like once the kill happens, it's like Jesse wakes up and it's like he's back in full body form. Yeah. And it's like the whole shredding is probably like the dream sequence portion of it. So when we see Freddy in the mirror, I guess it's like saying bye-bye, like time for you to wake up or something. Okay, that's probably how I've maybe like how I kind of take because you definitely are right. Like the editing is hard, but to kind of like figure out was real, was not, was a dream. And like how you said, like whether it's like when Jesse sees himself in the mirror, does he see Freddy? Because like you're seeing him waving, so it's like is Jesse waving to the mirror, and then he's seeing Freddy as the reflection, or is it one of just like Freddy's mind games?
Yep. And then of course it gets even more interesting, like when Lisa encounters Freddy, and she kind of they've already had these discussions about what's happening with Jesse and like the dreams that he's been having. And I will say this, kudos to her, because she doesn't really go through the whole like you're crazy, I don't believe you part of their relationship. She's pretty much all in on what he's going through.
I guess it's because she read the diary with him early on before things started happening, so she kind of got a sense of what the previous girl, like what Nancy had gone through. So I feel like since she kind of read that and started hearing what Freddy was, she kind of believed him. If it had been just Jesse by himself finding out that the diary, it might have been different. So I guess that's probably why she was like very thing and understood, because she had read the diary. She basically found out with Jesse kind of who Freddy was at the same time.
Yeah. And they have that a moment at her house where he's there, and I think it's a back and forth thing at that point where she's seeing Jesse, and then he's basically like, "Oh, it's happening again." This kind of like it's starting to come out again, and so like that is another instance of like, okay, there's no dream going on, right? Because she's awake, right? Like she hasn't fallen asleep, and I think there's a moment where I don't know if I forget if like I just watched it too, where he's like behind the counter, like where he's hidden, and she's calling for him, and then when he pops up again,
it's Freddy.
He's Freddy, and there's this whole like really fun kind of chase and stuff.
Is that the one when he says Lisa help me or something like that?
Yeah.
So okay.
It's suspect, and I think she has the knife, and she's like stabbing him, and he is speaking through Freddy. And then at one point, the voices don't even it doesn't even go to Jesse's voice. It's him saying it. It's Freddy saying, I love you, Lisa. And then that's confusing Freddy. So I guess like the only real smart thing about that scene to me is that it shows that Freddy doesn't have complete control there either. And that
Jesse he's still fighting him.
He has a little bit of power. But again, it's just the confusing of like, it's the body swap thing. I guess I'm just like, stuck on like when it
no, I mean it's understandable because that's still a big criticism, because like I said, like the pool scene is obviously automatically he's coming out to the real world while everybody's awake. That part I hate, because like at least the other stuff is like it kind of fucks with us, like it's like, oh, like is he real, is he not? As where this is like, and that takes away, because like Nightmare on Elm Street is my second favorite horror franchise, and the first one is my second favorite horror movie after Halloween. So it's like I love this franchise. I love this world. And the pool scene is one of the worst things in the franchise, because it's like it defeats the purpose of what Freddy's supposed to stand for.
Yeah, I think so too. And like, I mean, I get like on paper it probably was viewed as like a really
fun
cool scene,
fun,
and like like we'll have Freddy come out and like attack all these like teenagers at a pool party. And even though the scene it's at night, it's not during the day, but there's something about like throwing him out in the open, because for the most part, even in this movie, like much like the first one, he is kind of like in shadow a bit. They don't really use him a ton. Like,
it's like probably like 7 minutes of screen time, I think.
Yeah, but like this being the most like egregious use of his screen time, where it's just like he's just out in the open, like in front of everyone, and I do see the fun in it. I mean, there is some fun in him like running around, like knocking stuff over and slashing people up, and like start making the pool boil and all that stuff. Like I see the fun in it, but like just the logistics and like as far as like what we've already set up, even a little bit, I guess, in this movie compared and then what we were fully set up in the first movie, it just doesn't make a lot of sense. And then it definitely like dials down like, okay, well now like everybody can see him, and we don't, and like instead of it being isolated to a few characters who have been dreaming about him, I know it. I get why it's a problematic scene. I get why Wes Craven didn't love it, and that's one of the main reasons why he was like, "Go off and do your movie. I'm not doing it." But yeah,
it's the 80s. You could have just had like a few of them drank too much and fell asleep, or something. You could have, because the scene itself is dope, but like it's a good scene. Like it's fun, like you said. It's just the fact that it takes place in the real world that kind of fucks it up. Like if this would have been a stream sequence, all timer for the franchise. It's the fact that it's in the real world that's like the
and as we've seen that they'll even do in the next one in Dream Warriors, it's possible to have like a group of them fall asleep and then have them all kind of be in that world together, and and that makes sense. And I'm glad they kind of cracked the code for that with Dream Warriors, so that is exactly how you do it. Is like you kind of like what is made to look like a group psychosis of these kids who are like crazy, is actually just them having this universal group dream about this man that is tied to their past through what their parents did to him. and of course what he was doing.
Exactly.
Yeah, so like, but that makes more sense. But like in this, there's no like, okay, well, if Jesse's just asleep, he shouldn't be able to just bring Freddy out into the real world. Even if you want to make it one of the supporting characters like Lisa or something like that, like that's not enough either to bring him out into the real world at a big hopping pool party with a bunch of people there. So that is what doesn't make sense about it. But I do agree with you. There was a way to maybe have some of them be like drunk and passed out, like whatever. If you wanted that sequence so bad,
it's the 80s. Make them have some drugs or something.
You already. I mean, what I do love about that scene is, because there are parties like this like going on in high school and like indie
for sure.
Where you had like the parents kind of like there at the beginning, and I love that they have this like really like fancy dinner party music playing while the dad's grilling, and then they wait for the parents to go up to the room and like shut the light off, and then it turns into like a full on party with like typical 80s music. They roll out the like wet wagon with like beer.
That scene makes no sense to me because it's like, okay, they turn off the lights. What, you think that they can't hear the music?
Yeah, and I'm at least happy that they put the scene in where the dad got up again and was like, "What are those kids doing?" Because if they wouldn't have cut back to the parents at least once that music turned on,
exactly,
and all that hoorah outside, I was like, "Okay, well, whatever." But like, I do think that part of it is funny that they're counting down to like them turning off the light, and then, and I also wonder if that party would have gone until exactly 12:30, like Lisa was told her parents it would. But then, of course, there more things go wrong there beyond like kids drinking at the party. Like, people died. Like sorry, got worse and really hurt at this pool party. But yeah, I get, it is a problematic scene, but I get also like they thought it would be a cool like set piece too for the movie.
No, for sure.
And then I guess Robert Englund got to like he got to improv that line like "You're all my children now." So there's that. He got to kind of have like a really cool Freddy moment because he already was like, I know this character more than maybe the people writing for him, and that's cool to have that kind of ownership. And it's only the second movie, though, so good for Robert Englund for like being aware of what that character was even that early on. That he was like, okay, I think I can like do things with this. I know him as a person. I know him as the, what he would do and wouldn't do, and I think that's pretty awesome that he knew that even then. Even before he arguably became a bigger pop culture magnet with the third and fourth movie, that he knew where this kind of like was headed. Like probably even when I wonder if he even really knew when the first one came out in '84, if he was like, okay, like I think Freddy is about to become an icon.
I don't think anybody could have predicted, because like the first one made money because it was low budget, but it wasn't like a monster hit like that. Like, just remember, it's like 80s, it was cheap to make horror movies, so that's why they made the sequel like a year later. But because I feel like the first one, obviously it was really critically acclaimed, but I feel like Freddy truly became a huge pop. I mean, you were obviously you're a kid, you're a child of the 80s, so you know it better than me. But I feel it was like between the third and the fourth that it was like he really became like a pop star, because that's like when they did the TV show started like around between the third and the fourth
movie, and then like and he, I think 3 and 4, and Robert Englund says especially 4 was really a product of like the MTV generation, and like you can even tell that what the code that they cracked in the third one, as far as like creating like these supporting characters that you could root for beyond just rooting for the lead. Dream Warriors did that really well, and that you can kind of see that they really tried to like, and I think they were kind of successful with the supporting characters in 4, where they created like an interesting group around Alice too, around Lisa Wilcox's character, that was you had fun people in the movie that were these fun kind of like hip kind of kids, or like interesting like misunderstood kids that were able to be like just as interesting almost as the lead. And so they kind of got that right with the 3 and 4. And then 3 was just also it debuted at number 1 when it came out. It was a huge success when it came out. The soundtrack, the Dawkins song. So there's a lot that hit really right.
And it
with
was
that
also,
movie.
and also remember Wes Craven came back to co-write the third. So it was like it was a
Yeah,
way like, okay, we know that I mean, at least at the time, like, oh, we know we fucked up with the second one. We're
yeah.
bringing back the creator, at least to be a lot of creative input. We're bringing back the original final girl. So like they definitely. I mean, that's like, as much as we're podcasting about part two, so we clearly were fans of it. But
Yeah.
the initial failure of it at least allowed for Dream Warriors, because if this had been like, let's say, a box office hit, or I mean, it
They
was,
would
but
have
like
ran with this, I think.
they would they
If
would
it was,
they,
yeah, if it was
they,
received better critically, I think too,
they would have definitely done
they would
something
have ran with it.
differently.
Yeah, yeah, I think they really would have ran with this, and I don't think they would have gone necessarily
Back to
back.
Nancy at all.
Yeah, and I know that they said that I think it was Sarah Fisher who worked at New Line. She said, with each film, she would go back to Wes Craven and ask him, either for ideas or if he wanted to come back. And I know after two, I wonder if there was more of like a begging situation after to do like, please do
I
it.
could definitely see a begging stuff, because like, oh, we need and probably I could see Nancy Cartwright is her name, right?
With who?
And I'm drawing a blank on the girl that plays Nancy, her real name.
Oh, Heather Langenkamp.
Sorry, Heather Lancombe's the Nancy Cartwright. Heather,
Yeah.
I could see where it was like Heather probably was like, oh, I'm only gonna come back if Wes comes back in some way.
Yeah, because like I know with two, she said that she wasn't even asked back for two, and that and she wasn't like particularly hurt by it. Like it seemed like two was more about like the events that went on at the house, and let's make it more about the house and like all that stuff. It was almost like they tried to make it like without making it one quite, but like a haunted house idea rather than like him as a person and what Freddie was doing to like the town of like as a whole, in Springwood. But like they said that the idea was more to kind of make this about the confines of the house and like the events that took place at this house and basically the stain that might have been left at this house, because they kind of like they set up the fact that Nancy went crazy after the first one. The mom committed suicide. They don't really mention what happened to her dad. We learn what happened to him
In
in the third movie, but we don't, but that's not something they probably would have set up here. So like you could tell with the second one, they were not washing their hands of Nancy, because they definitely used the character name. They used what happened to her in the first one. They had this whole concept of her writing a journal, even though like
I guess they probably.
we never really saw her writing the journal in the first movie.
I guess it's like something how you were implying like earlier when you talking about the whole like they didn't want to pay Robert what he think. I think they probably just didn't think that Freddy the character was like the big hook of it.
Right.
They probably just felt like, oh, we could just keep making these and just like make it like have obviously included, but he doesn't have to be the main attraction. So there was like no reason to, because the movie's called Freddy's Revenge, but it's like, who is Freddy getting revenge on?
Getting revenge on, yeah.
Like Jesse has
every person, like the main person who's left, Nancy, is gone.
Exactly. That title makes no sense.
And it makes no sense whatsoever. So like it should, like, if she were in it, it would make sense. But Jesse and his family have no connection to Freddy whatsoever. They've just moved into this house. And subsequently, like, we don't really hear, compared to like in the other sequels, we don't really hear about like necessarily what the parents kind of did to Freddy in this movie either. I mean, like there's a newspaper clippings and they kind of mention it almost in passing, but there's not this whole kind of like him getting revenge on the kids of Elm Street, like because of their parents. That's not really being talked about in this movie at all. So yeah, there is no real revenge, because like there's someone that he's like they're not really setting up these people that he kind of wants, like that he's seeking retribution.
Exactly.
So it makes like no sense. I mean, I guess it's a good hook for like bringing a villain back for a sequel, because he was vanquished in the first movie, and like it's like that whole thing with like Halloween 5, the revenge of Michael Myers. Like, well, I guess he's still going after JB, and he gets to like dispatch Rachel. I mean,
when it comes to Halloween 5, I do love it where it's like, I do love it. There's like, oh, he like hid it for a whole Yeah, because it's like
And now he's like mad.
yeah, because it's like what he just he walks around the town for a whole year, then just starts to attack on. So I always like the Halloween movies, at least kind of like with part two is like, okay, it's still the same night, but we got to put this horrible wig on Jamie Lee because it's been 3 years. But so I did like 5 that is like oh, we're gonna keep him like as a hermit for like a whole year. But with this is like it's like, okay, well, how do we do it?
What do you in this movie, and then just overall, like, how do you feel as because the concept of in horror movies, it's usually the final girl that we have in horror movies, because a lot of horror movie directors, writers, producers will just say, and they don't mean this in a negative way, but like there is just more vulnerability that comes from having a female in the lead of these movies, because like putting them in danger seems more dire than putting a male lead in danger.
Yeah, because you see like a male like kind of like
personality, right? Or whether it's in stature, whatever. Now we've had final guys in other horror movies, but sometimes they're still surrounded by maybe another final girl. Like you have, in Friday the 13th Final Chapter, you have little Tommy Jarvis, but like you also have the sister who functions as like a final girl too. And I know and then they brought Tommy back in those next 2 movies, and he is he is essentially the final guy in those films.
Yeah, I feel like Friday.
If you want to look at something like The Lost Boys as well, like there's a male leads in that, and like there's not really a focus on like a main girl, but for the most part we usually only get women, and this is probably one of the biggest examples of having a final guy in the movie. It's interesting now because like I don't think I ever.
But you make him super feminine, so it's like that's what he's considered the first male scream queen.
Yeah. Having him wake up from his dreams and like he's screaming full on, like a girl when he does, and which even when I was younger, I didn't really mind the idea when I first saw it when I was a kid. Like this wasn't a big deal that you had a final guy, to me, being the one that's going to be the last one standing, right? That wasn't something that bothered me. I think it was them not being either, depending on how you look at it, either they were do what they were doing and they were kind of poking fun at him while doing it, or they didn't have the balls, I guess, to just kind of like, hey, okay, he could be the lone survivor of this, but we don't have to make him feminine in order to make him the last one standing either. He can still just be a man, or and not make him act stereotypically like feminine, just to kind of drive home the fact to like make him more vulnerable. I think there's a lot they could have done that would have been easier on, I guess, Mark himself. But I will say, for me, like, I kind of know what you think about him and just the final guy concept, but it's a good performance overall. I think he does a really good job, and I think he
plays it really well.
I think a lot was thrown at him at that time, and he went for it.
Mm-hmm.
And even as he was kind of realizing what was happening while they were making it, I still think he did his very best. I mean, the scene with Grady is really good, and some of his stuff when he's like explaining it to Lisa towards the end is like really, really good, when he's just kind of like back and forth about like this thing that is consuming him, and this presence that's coming out of him, and like there's like a lot of subtext there, but he's playing that so strong, and maybe because like it was a relatable concept to him to talk about struggling with this thing that is coming out of him. So I think overall he did a really good job, and probably didn't really get enough credit then for what he was doing. And I think in, of course, subsequent years he has gotten that credit that he kind of richly deserves, I think, in the long run.
No, if it is definitely a great performance. And I mean, like, yeah, he was in the closet back then, but sometimes you could just kind of tell where certain people are gay, even if they haven't came out themselves.
Yeah,
I'm like, I've seen the man talk in the documentary, and like he looks like those like that were gay. He was like very kind of flamboyant, very like So like I feel like they kind of knew, which is why they probably emphasized them more in the movie. Because like I said, if he noticed, it's obviously because they were like they were the way they were asking him, like because they could make him like scream like like no tough,
Yeah,
more tough.
and
So I'm
we've
pretty
seen we've seen men in horror movies where they've done that. They don't
exactly.
have them. They don't have them wail. Like
And
they scream.
that was definitely probably like a Jack Shoulder choice to tell him to like play more heightened. Like you said,
Yeah,
we've seen that we know like he probably got what they were trying to do because it's like you don't just make a character scream like a girl like just for the fuck of it. Like no guy
just
just
because. Yeah,
like that was definitely a director choice that they asked him to do it. So it's like they definitely were leaning into the femininity, vulnerability of the character. He does give a great performance. Like he sells fear really well. Like he actually makes you feel like he's scared out of his pants. Like you
yeah,
feel
yeah,
he that's not like a lot of people say oh like he sells fear well, but like when it comes to his performance, like you legit are scared for Jesse. Like like it sometimes doesn't even feel like a performance. Like you feel like Mark himself is like scared. And like I said, he has an allegory to like the coming out, like, oh, it's coming out of him. Like, he's suppressing his feelings. So it's like there was probably like something that was personal to Mark and he kind of used it in a way to
yeah.
channel like the stuff like being hidden, like not being able to be yourself and all that stuff.
Yeah, and like they do a lot of things that kind of add to his performance. I think too that you didn't even really see in the first one with Nancy. Like, they showing the aftermath and intensity of his dreams, like having him like drenched in like sweat and like all
Yeah,
this other stuff
that's a good choice.
where he's just kind of like there's this intensity to like the dreams that he's having and they escalate more and more and you can tell that like and of course like and they do this with the adult figures in all of these movies, but like his parents don't know what's going on with him, right? Like his mom thinks he might be going a little crazy, and then
Oh yeah,
his dad thinks he's on drugs. He's supposed to be smoking that dope.
that's one thing I'll give those parents props. This is probably some of the best pair of parents that actually care. Because again, in so many horror movies, like parents either brush off their kids or like like in part three, like they try to drug Patricia Arquette's character. Yeah. And then the fourth one, and then or like the parents just are barely in the movie and don't really exist. Like that's something I really love about Jesse's parents in this. Like they genuinely seem like they care about their kid, which is so rare in horror movies. Like they only tend to care when their son dies. Like, oh my god, my son. Like the Final Destination movies, when they shit on Alex and stuff like that. But then when his best friend dies in the shower.
Yeah,
it's like oh now you care about now you care about your son. Like come on, even that.
And then they blame it on Alex, who wasn't even there.
Exactly. It's like horror movies are always has the worst pair of parents. Like we know it because me you love horror, so we watch a lot of horror.
Yeah,
parents in horror movies suck.
They are usually awful, and like it's always like when you're watching horror movies, if you're a younger person getting into these or like whatever, like you will learn that like one of the big concepts is you need to listen to your children or your teenagers because they usually are the ones that are like they see this stuff first or they're experiencing it first. Like there's always a parent or an adult figure that's like you're imagining things or you're going crazy or they seem like or they don't give like any credence to like what their kid might be going through. And I do agree. Even though they kind of play the dad, especially. Well, actually, they play them both as stereotypes, where they have the mom being like the very like Susie homemaker, like I want to make sure everything's okay stereotype, and then they have his dad being the whole like there must be a logical explanation to all of this kind of stereotype. But even though they are doing that, they aren't like they're not throwing Jesse out because there's certain like situations with like parents that were dealing with someone like Jesse, and he's waking up in the middle of the night screaming and like having all these intense dreams. Like he gets picked up by I guess the cops. By
it's like that scene is
naked on the highway. Like
that scene is great because you see how like the father's so comforting. Like there might have been in other horror movies where they would have chastised the kid, like, "Oh, what are you doing in the street?" They would have made him feel like shit. As where his parents were like so welcoming and they brought him in home, like asking what happened. Like they you could see like they genuinely cared about him in that scene.
Yeah, and I think the only ball dropped with them as far as like furthering along that kind of relationship is the movie's only 87 minutes, so they can't really do a lot with like that family dynamic as a whole. But you don't really get to see much more interaction from them after that. After that whole moment with him being discovered on the highway naked, And then of course him, I think, leaving uh the house when his mom's like basically trying to ask him like if he's okay, and he hops in his car and he leaves and says he doesn't want to talk about it. And then what did that say? He like, what it needs a good swift kick in the butt, like that kind of like that basically kind of like that's like the last interaction you really get with him and his parents. And it would have been nice to kind of see I guess not a little bit of a resolution as to like
Yeah.
Them kind of like what was going on with their son. But like the parents in these movies and the Nightmare movies and the adult figures are the ones that aren't understanding. One, because either they are unaware of like what's really happening and they think that these children they just need some sleep and they're going crazy, or you have like the parents who know exactly what they did to a Fred Krueger back in the day, and they have all this repressed guilt, and which is why they're not really bringing up what could be wrong with their kids.
We become alcoholics and all that stuff.
Yeah. So like, but I do love that you have the parents in this movie that don't kick him out. They don't, they don't kind of like give up on him per se in the scenes that they do have together. It would have been nice to have them played less as stereotypes, but I think they do the best they can too. And the poor girl who plays the sister, she's just there. I mean, I don't really. They don't really do nothing with the little sister, except for
that scene with the cereal, she puts like the little nails.
Yeah, and then like, or that she could be in danger when I think she's in the bed and it's Freddy's voice that says, "Wake up, little girl," and then she wakes up. And she's like, "What time is it?" And he's like, "Oh, it's just late. Go back to sleep." And he's Jesse at that point. But there's not much done with her. So like, sometimes I even forget she's in the movie.
It's like they didn't even make it like the annoying little sister, how the annoying little sibling, how they tend to do in horror movies. She's just there.
They just have her reacting to Jesse being like going crazy, and she's like, "Mom, Dad, I'm scared." Like that's like she's not really like.
And the whole one with like the parakeet, like that was pretty funny.
Yeah, that's another scene that Wes Craven saw in the script. It was like, why is there a possessed parakeet in the movie? And then the effects look so cheap, like it looks so bad.
Mm-hmm.
And like the way they describe making it in Never Sleep Again, where they're just like this, like first with the wire and kind of like almost like swinging it around the room in a way where it like, I was like, they were just like, they said when they were doing it, they're like, this is ridiculous. But I mean, when it's 19, this went into pre-production in April of 1985. So like you're working with $3 million. It's like $3 million by those standards. They don't really think like necessarily what they're making looks incredibly hokey or cheap.
Just churning it out.
Yeah, I do think the original pitch that they had from Leslie Bone was interesting. They said that the original concept was an homage to Rosemary's Baby. So they came up with a plot that had a new family move into the house, which is what this is. A teenage boy and his pregnant mother and a stepfather the boy didn't get along with. It was a real bloody, scary idea and much more physical and realistic because the dream reality stuff was less central to the movies back then. My story was more of a possession scenario with Freddy getting inside the mother's womb, controlling the fetus. But New Line passed on the idea because executive Sarah Risher was pregnant at the time, and the concept kind of upset her at the time. So they went with David Chaskin's pitch involving Jesse instead.
You ever seen the pitch that Peter Jackson had?
No, I didn't. I've heard things about it, but like
that would have been such a good one.
What was his I
don't know off the top of the head, but it was basically it was for the final nightmare, but it was I think it was like bringing back all the main kids. It was or like bring all the I think it was like all the main kids going to the dream world and then to like kind of attack Freddy or something like that, but it wasn't the lines like they didn't want to make Freddy look too weak. Like I don't remember, like that, but definitely it's a good read. It's something that just look into to read it real quick. It is a fun one, but it would have been a way better concept than what we got in the Final Nightmare.
Yeah, that's interesting. And then the whole possess him trying to control the fetus thing, they kind of played with that in Nightmare on Elm Street 5 Dream Child anyway.
That movie sucks.
They eventually, but that is an interesting idea too. To like, I like Dream Child in concept.
The concept is dope because I remember like when I first watched them and after Dream Master finished, I was excited to see what was gonna go next with Atlas.
Yeah. But yeah, and then I guess at the time, Brad Pitt was in
second choice for Jesse.
to play Jesse, yeah, and he lost the role as he was deemed too nice by the producers. So that would have been very, very, very interesting, to say the least. And as far as this whole back and forth about the homoerotic subtext, um, it's landed on the list as like the 5 most unintentionally gay horror movies of all time. It ranked number 1. And
what was the other 5?
I know I want to now I kind of want to see what the other ones are, because it's like that's actually gonna be really interesting. Let me see what the other ones are. I'm gonna look it up.
Yeah, because I'm trying to think of like what would be considered unintentional gay.
Number 5, The Lost Boys.
Oh yeah, that makes sense.
Because a handsome young man is targeted by vampires. Everyone is dressed like members of Wham.
And it was directed by a gay filmmaker.
A gay filmmaker. And then it's a whole greased up saxophone guy. Corey Haim has the poster of Rob Lowe on his wall. But they really don't like kind of like point that out. Like that wasn't really brought up. I think individually as a character, I've seen stuff where Sam is called out for homoeroticism, but not the movie itself. The Covenant from 2006 is at number 4.
Oh yeah.
Number 3, The Forsaken, another vampire movie with
never seen that one.
And Brendan Farrell. It's been so long. It came out in 2001. And then number 2 is Jeepers Creepers 2. Okay, I kind of see that now. All right, that makes sense.
I've only seen the first one. I got to see.
This boy has mad homoerotic stuff in it, and it's made more weird once you know about Victor Silva, because he did direct the second one too.
Yeah,
and it's more obvious that the creeper is into the men on this broken down bus rather than the women or the female kids are in the broken down bus. So yeah, I could totally see that.
Okay.
But Mark Patton at one point, I guess, blamed Chaskin for a lot of the stuff that
kind of they had a whole beef
on the movie. Yeah, he says he claimed the subtext arose from how Patton played the part. He hated that he mentioned that rather than Chaskin saying that was the subtext was there the entire time. It suggested that it came out because of how Patton portrayed the character. He says, I love when he uses the word subtext. He complained, did you actually go to a freshman English course in high school? This is not subtext. In 2016, he said Chaskin sabotaged him. No one ever affected my confidence. The boys that threw rocks to me, nobody, but this man did. Chaskin denied for years that there was a gay subtext in his screenplay, and said at one point he told a reporter that Patton had simply played the part too gay. The emotional stress of the film, of course, led Patton to leave acting shortly afterwards for a career in interior decorating. And that kind of like all kind of really came to a head in when he did Scream Queen, My Nightmare on Elm Street, where he kind of got to, I guess, not necessarily confront, but I guess speak with a lot of people that were involved in the production of Nightmare 2 and get their thoughts on subtext, no subtext, what was going on then, what did it mean then, was it obvious then, and I'm glad that documentary one allowed him to confront that and get everyone's opinion on it, like everyone that was important to that movie that was still around at the time to discuss Nightmare 2 to kind of get their feedback on it.
It's been a while for me, but they had the screenwriter appeared in it, right? They had like a whole conversation and kind of like make amends, right?
Big come to Jesus, and it kind of I think concludes that documentary like towards the end. It's like the big kind of moment in it, because he was one of the main people that Chaskin did try to like kind of ignore the fact, or like really didn't want to.
Yeah,
and I gotta watch the whole thing again because I can't remember why he denied it for so long and kind of put it on Mark Patton that this was why this was coming out that way, or why it was.
I guess maybe because it's like I said, I haven't seen it in a while. I only saw that one time either, but maybe he probably was trying to protect himself because maybe he was like I said, like it could be a way where maybe they kind of knew that Mark was gay, but in the closet, and they try to highlight it. So maybe it's like he didn't want to have like that stigma, like, oh, like was he forcing somebody to come out? Because that's still still very taboo when you kind of force somebody to come out. That still seems very obviously, and as it should be, should be seen something negative because you shouldn't have to force anybody to come out. But maybe that was like his way to protect himself. To be like, you're like, oh, did you emphasize on the homosexual aspect because you knew that the lead actor was, like if Brad Pitt
Yeah.
had been hired, would they have like toned it down, or would they have, because obviously I don't think
Right.
Brad Pitt would,
And then how much of it was more like
because Mark's casting.
yeah. How much, if anything, was directly in the script, and then they just kind of like on shooting days,
Yeah,
kind of like
because
like
he
change up like on the fly. Like it is kind of like interesting to like know what, because what I do kind of think is true. The director, Jack Shoulder, they said that he unintentionally might have brought out some of the chastity scenes to the forefront without even realizing it. And Jack Shoulder said, I simply did not have the self-awareness at that time to realize that any of this might be interpreted as gay. And for some reason, I believe him. I think that there are some people back then that didn't really think of like, one, that is this gay or is this not gay? And then like, what are the repercussions of like presenting something as being overtly homosexual, and like especially if that wasn't a world that you lived in. So I can understand like some of the cast and crew not getting it. Like, oh
Yeah,
well,
because the screenwriter's saying like, oh, Mark played a gay, but it's like he's a young actor. He had only done, from what I remember, he did a Robert Altman movie with Cher.
Yeah.
A young actor like that is gonna play a role the way his director's telling him. And if he's playing the role a certain way and the director's not correcting him or saying like, oh, you're doing a bit too much, or like it's too, like too fruity, too queer, whatever the term they might have used back then. He was playing a certain role, and it's like, if the director's not correcting him, he probably wasn't thinking anything wrong, or maybe the director was emphasizing it more just based on what he saw in the script, or a lot of times screenwriters tend to be on the set, at least back then for sure. So maybe like it's like you saying you trying to blame it on, oh, he played again. Like, no, a young actor is going to play the way his director's telling him to play a role, and if there was anything wrong with how he's playing the role, they would have corrected him. So if you think he was doing it, he was playing the role too gay, but he wasn't corrected about he was playing it, it's because most likely it was that's how people took the script to be implied to, like, oh, he's supposed to be playing a family, like you mentioned, like maybe it's a male lead, but it's like we want to make him vulnerable and make him more like a female style character.
Yeah. Jack Shoulders also said in the 2020 interview that he never had any discussions with Chastain or any on New Line about the gay subtext in the script during production. He did add that in his view, the movie was about repressed sexual angst that every teenager experiences, and that angst can be expressed itself in the question of, am I gay? He also pointed out that Mark Patton maybe at first didn't pick up some of the subtext in the script, but a lot of people in the crew began to point it out to him while making the movie too, and made him more aware of it. He said, looking back on it, there were a whole bunch of decisions, starting with the casting of Mark, really, that if you look at some of the things that we were doing as to why it's the gayest horror film of all time, some of it is people reading into things, some of it was intentional, and some of it was stuff that people added that fed into that idea along the way. So it might be a combination of all those things.
But it's like, I don't really feel like it's reading into it. It's like I said, it's like the two main scenes. It's like there's no other way to read into it or to
I know,
like, the stuff with the code. It's like you find the gym teacher in a leather bar. Like, no offense, back in the 80s, leather bars were synonymous with gay culture. You have cruising, you have police academy, you have the when the gym teacher gets killed, he's literally freaking like tied up, butt naked. Like you could have just killed him with his leather outfit on. And then the whole thing with Grady is like, Lisa read the diary with you. She knows about Freddy. Why would you want to, like, you maybe didn't want to like cause her any harm, but she would understand what's going on because she read the diary and all that stuff. But instead of you kissing your girl, you leave to, like I said, to go Superman. Like, there's no read into it. It's like it's literally right in front of you. Like, you want to act oblivious to it, that's fine. But it's not people reading into it. It's especially now in retrospect when we watch certain movies, like we know more, more gay culture is more like present in the mainstream. We see more representation. Like, it's pretty obvious.
Yeah. As far as like bringing up Grady again, I've always, like, even watching it for this, their friendship is always interesting to me because like there seems to be more like bullying and stuff on Grady's
At the
end.
beginning,
Right,
yeah.
at the beginning, where I'm like, are they actually friends? And then like when he trusts him enough to go to Grady's house to like
Mhm.
want to be like, I need to stay here because of all this stuff that's happening to me. So like I don't know if it's an issue in how it's written or what, but like I've always like, are they actually friends? Or
I
like
do like that character for sure because when you like you said when you first meet him, you think he's just gonna be a typical '80s villain. Plus,
yeah,
the guy had just literally played was the bully in Weird Science the same
in
year.
Weird Science,
So,
yeah.
so it's like like people that
I
watch
think
the movies.
he said he had just I think raps Weird Science when he got
Mhm.
Nightmare 2, yeah.
Exactly. So it's like pretty sure that people watching that like in '85 that probably saw both movies. As soon as you meet Grady's character, you're like, oh, he's gonna be the bully of the movie. So I do like the fact that it's like there's more to Grady, where it's like when he does that, you kind of feel bad for him.
Yeah.
That's it. If he was having the bully, it was just like if Freddy eventually got him, I'm like, oh, whatever. But you actually they actually make you care for Grady by how they do the turn. Like, okay, no, he's it was like, oh, he was a bully, but then it's like he started to get to know Mark. I mean, even though Mark is kind of an asshole, so there's also that part where it's like, why would anybody want to be friends with Mark? He's kind of a dick. If we're real with it.
Jesse, when he's like, well, he's kind of like, I mean, he's a hard, Jesse is interesting because like he has, you're supposed to understand what he's going through, right?
Mhm.
But then also he's just so hard to the people who are trying to like
Exactly.
be there for him. So even Lisa, he's kind of like dismissive to at times, even before the whole thing at the pool party. It's like he's very like short. And like the one that cracks me up is when like I don't know why this decision was made to have like Robert Russler just having this whole line of dialogue with like food in his mouth. I guess it's supposed to kind of like make him like add to his personality as being like a jokester and like whatnot. But like he makes fun of Jesse, and the way that he says like "shut up, Grady" is like really aggressive and like. And I know like a lot. He's going through a lot. He hasn't really been sleeping. He's been having terrible dreams. He's going through the most. But there are moments where Jesse is not entirely likable
At all.
everyone. And you're like, yo, like it's maybe not. Maybe you don't need to like have this kind of like come to Jesus discussion with your parents, because like there's that whole concept when you're a teenager that adults just don't understand me, right? But you have this girl who is like willing to believe this craziness you're talking about. She's got your back, so like why not, even if it's not like romantic, at least like be on the up and up with her about at least being friendly, because she is trying to be there for you during this like really crazy time in your life. But then there's moments where he's just so like verbally dismissive to even her that's like, I'm surprised he didn't get like, well, fuck you then. Like I won't help you. Like it's just kind of funny to me. But I think in the end though, like how everything wraps up, it takes Lisa to be the one to convince him to kind of like to fight this thing, and I don't know what that says about whatever subtext they might have been using in the movie, or if it's just more about like the power of friendship being able to help you fight whatever evils inside of you. But Lisa is the one that convinces him to fight it and to not let Freddy control him. And like she is ultimately like the hero of this story. Like of course Jesse is the one that has to like overcome it himself, but
that scene actually really dope.
It's Lisa though is the one that has to like be the heroine at the end, even though she's not really set up that way. But
so it's like that's how they're in a way to like still make like the girl be like maybe not the final girl, but like the one that kind of defeats him, similar to because that is a great scene which we haven't really spoken about. Like and I like the way is that once he gets defeated, how Freddy crumbles and like you see Jesse come out of him. So it's like, so it's like a reverse of what we've been seeing in the whole movie, where it was like Freddy was coming out of him.
Yeah, it is really done really well, and yeah, it does kind of like it's interesting because Wes Craven didn't like this script, but I do think that the ending of I think it's handled better in the first one, but the ending of this one and the first one,
the ending of the first one is so.
Yeah, and like, well, at least the overall before the final gotcha thing at the end. But the idea in both movies is that like you either have to like fight this thing or turn your back on it. Like it's bigger than just this kind of physical uh defeat of the villain, where it has to be more psychological. And I think that
Yeah.
the first movie does that with Nancy when she realizes that like she's turning her back on him, and that like she takes back all the power that she gave him by being afraid of him. Which is I know we're not talking about the first movie, but that is still undone by the weird thing that Robert Shea wanted to do at the end. That they ended up doing.
Everybody's alive and all stuff.
But then like there still might be in the dream because like because they wanted to show that Freddy was still out there somewhere. I always think back on Wes Craven's like ending, which is I guess a more poetic like, now let's have her strip him of all of his power by being like, I'm not afraid of you anymore.
Yeah.
And then having so much power that she demands like, I want my mother, my friends again. I want them all back. And like that is such a good ending overall because of like the concepts of the movie of like having this man that plays on your fear, and that is what is essentially killing you more than him killing you in the dream. It's the fact that he can get into your subconscious and play with your fear. So like it's such a cool poetic ending to have her realize that and like turn it on him. Of course, that's ruined with the whole like snatching the mom from the door and then like the Freddy car.
It's not even the snatching the mom part that bothers me. It's the clear doll.
Yeah.
It's like you could have just had it where it's like, I don't know, like snatch the mom and like the door breaks, but it's like putting her through the little window of the door, and as you can tell, it's a clear doll. Like it's like even by 1984 standard, you should have known that just doesn't look good. But the whole Freddy car stuff is kind of interesting. Like it is a cool visual, but it's also like, and the fact that they didn't come back for the sequel, so it's like they could have just done us.
It set them up to be all alive, and they're like, oh, okay.
Mm-hmm. Nobody came back because they could have just done the scary movie how Brenda gets killed every movie and comes back again.
Right. And then like Robert Shea, his idea was like, you never know when you're in the dream when you're not, and like that's kind of interesting, I guess. But like Wes Craven's like original kind of button on that was like made more sense, and I actually like the button it has on this, even though like it's the whole like you need to be stronger than this and like stronger than this thing that's inside of you and like fight it. And like if she encourages that even at almost at her own detriment, like putting herself in danger to help her friend, because even she says it in Never Sleep Again that she was like, I don't know if they ended up becoming like more romantic out of this, or if he was like the will to her grace basically after this whole like this whole experience that they had together. But it is nice that like this one person that believed him pretty much the entire movie, that when he was explaining this is what was going on, and she
never judged him.
Yeah, never judged him. And then that's another whole like part, like if you want to look at it from the other part of it, if you look at the homoerotic subtext in it, is that he had a friend he was confiding in and never turned her back on him as he was trying to come out to her, basically. So there's like all that stuff in it that if you look at it that way, it's smart too. Like I just kind of wish they had the courage to really go all in and say this is what the story we're trying to tell, rather than
I feel like if it came out now, they would
be coy about it. Like, oh, I don't really know. And I agree. If it came out today, it would be.
It would have been like straight up, Jesse was
over the marketing campaign. It would like it'd be no secret whatsoever. And maybe you couldn't be that brave in like 85
at all
to present the way that it was. But I think if it hadn't played it coy and just like played it for a while, because this is why I actually appreciate the movie more now, and that all of this is out there, and they've openly talked about it. You had that whole documentary, and you had fans of this movie who are in the queer community that really
saw themselves in Jesse.
And this movie speaks to them in a really real way, and like the stuff that they've written about the movie and all that, like it gave me a much deeper appreciation of it as a sequel, as a film that I didn't have when I was younger, which is why I actually like it more now than I think it still has issues, of course.
No, of course, it's far from a perfect film.
But I think that there is so much more interesting ideas going on here that now that it's all presented the way it should be, it's out in the open. Everyone's honest about what the intentions were, or with the movie. It gets to exist in a real way that I don't think it got to exist when it came out in '85, and maybe a few years after that. This was like a really good example of something being reappraised and reassessed that truly benefited the film, with like maybe a new generation discovering it and being like, okay, this is what I think this is about. And then maybe like that generation forcing an old generation and the generation that made it to own up to what it is. And then that gives it a new life. And I think it really did have a new life after everyone put their cards out on the table and said like, all right, we're not gonna like be coy about this anymore. We're just gonna say it what it is. And I'm glad that, because I know that I don't know if you follow Mark Patton on Instagram and stuff, but like
no, I did when I reviewed Scream Queen, he liked it and he reposted it.
Okay. So like he's been like not in the best health lately. Still kicking it for sure. But like I'm just glad that like there's a point in his career.
He was alive enough. He was able to see like the movie get embraced more, because like you said, like that the reception and the production of it really did take a toll on his life and his career. Kind of made him reassess and everything. But it is nice.
Acting after this is great. Like that is one of the reasons why he stepped away from acting. Like that's
it's like essentially this is the season of the witch of this franchise. I know season of the witch was always like viewed.
It's so funny because all these like some of these franchises all have that one. Like this is that version of that. Of course, season of the witch is its own season of the witch in the Halloween franchise. New Beginning is like that for Friday the 13th.
Exactly. Which I always tell people, I'm like
I think it's good. I like it.
Exactly. I tell people, I'm like, up until the reveal, New Beginning is not great, but like great. The sound of those movies, like the kills,
by Friday
amazing. Exactly. So it's like the freaking kill when they kill him with the axe, which says the whole motion and the twist. But it's like that's a good Friday the 13th movie. Up until the reveal, everybody was enjoying it. If you see anybody that's a fan of the franchise and says they don't like that movie, and you ask them, it's only just the review that it wasn't really Freddy. I mean, sorry, Jason. Before that, the actual kills in the storyline, it's for the standard of Friday the 13th is really good. And it's like that movie's in the movie I've seen a lot that's gotten like a better reception over the years. Jason taking that hat too.
Yeah, I think at a certain point, all these ones that are deemed like terrible, every movie has some fans, man, even bad ones. So
because me and you are huge Scream fans.
Yeah,
part 3 is easily the weakest. Like there's no doubt about it. But people like we have fun with it. Like I don't skip it in the rewatch. I don't know. I have a lot of fun because it's like it has a lot of like so much inside baseball of Hollywood, and then obviously everything after the Weinstein stuff is like Lance Henriksen's character is essentially like Harvey Weinstein.
Yeah, and then produced by Harvey Weinstein. That movie's been reassessed in the years since it came out as being better than maybe you might think it is. Like it's fun for us, but like there are people that actually think it's like a proper end to Sydney's story. Everything should have ended there.
It really is. It is a good ending per se.
Yeah. There are people like with Scream 4 that thought it's ahead of its time, and like it emerged in like the kind of like making of reality stars that we kind of see more and more now. And like that movie has been reassessed and being like way ahead of its time, and like speaking to a culture that was about to really blow up before that movie came out. And so like it is interesting how a lot of these movies get like reevaluated in the years after they've come out. And some movies are ahead of their time, where it's like, oh, you weren't meant to get it then, or we were like thinking outside the box way too soon.
Yeah.
Like this franchise has seen that that happened with Wes Craven's New Nightmare. That was too meta before meta was
exactly like I always say, is like New Nightmare walks so Scream could run 2 years later.
Yeah, I mean, like, and it's a movie that was New Nightmare got really good reviews.
But I was
so convinced when I was younger because of those good reviews and how like everyone
that loved it.
Movie, it made some money, and then when I remember looking it up, I was like, "Oh, this
It's not
movie
even
was
20 million.
yeah, I was like, "This bombed." And I mean, I guess not bombed in relation to its budget, but it didn't do well.
Yeah, like it didn't even cross 20 at least, and that's like
Yeah,
based on the reviews and just like how well loved now, you would have thought it would at least make like 40, 50 million. But
yeah,
I do understand at the time it was like the way they blended like like the real world with fiction. I mean,
yeah.
it's that movie's so dark. I love it because it's like
And it's dark and a bold move to basically tell all the fans of this series that these were all movies, like actual movies, and like, and because they don't say that like the films aren't canon in some way. They all exist, they just
yeah,
all exist as Hollywood motion pictures, and they're not like. And Freddy is not the Freddy that you've come to really know across these films. Like it's just that idea is so big in its concept, and that was an idea that really did need time to have people go like, "Oh, that was really smart." To
yeah,
say that like this evil is so great that it could not be contained, but then the pages of a screenplay are on your screens. That it was so strong that it had to come out into our world. So that is
yeah.
like a whole cool idea. That was a way for like Wes Craven to put it to bed for himself.
I mean, I do hate that Johnny Depp was not in it because he gave an interview where he said like if Wes
He
Craven
would
had
have done.
asked him, he would have done it.
And Wade Craven was too afraid to ask him because at that point he was pretty
He was Johnny
famous.
Depp.
I mean, he wasn't like Pirates of the Caribbean Johnny Depp, but he was like,
No, but he already had Edward. He had crap. 21 Jump Street crap. Yeah, he was a draw by 94. But I love the fact that he said he would have done it because it also shows like he doesn't forget who gave him his first shot.
Yeah.
Plus he freaking came back for Final Nightmare for that weird ass cameo.
Yeah, so he definitely would have done it. If he could do it for Rachel Tallahassee, he could do it for Wes Craven.
Exactly.
I do want to ask you just a couple things before we wrap up. The two scenes that kind of like open and end the film, like the dream sequence with the bus.
It was a buzz.
What do you think of that analogy? Like, because it's interesting, like in tone and look. I mean, we have another guy doing the music. Christopher Young does the music. Like nothing about part two feels, other than Freddy, like and Robert England, feels like almost visually and like almost like it's still a dark movie, but like there's something about it that seems like off compared to the original film in terms of like the overall look and execution. And I think that's kind of noticeable even at the beginning with this bus stream sequence.
Yeah.
And then the parts of one that ends the movie, which is kind of a cool thing with like Freddy's glove coming out of the
so good from the friend.
Yeah. But
I mean, they're pretty interesting ways to like kind of like I said, I like the fact that his dreams have a different vibe than Nancy's. Because they could have just literally recreated the similar style of Nancy's dream,
which is like fog and all that.
Yeah, which is fog, boiler room setting stuff. So no, I mean they're cool. That like the way I like the ending of like the pre after the dreams part. Like I like the ending of part 2 better than the first one. Like it's just more fun.
I think it's more fun, and I think it does a fun kind of play on the whole like Carrie gotcha moment, which is like what all movies, I guess, horror movies wanted to do. Like, let's put this thing in, let's put this final hook in, and like either set something up or like let's end it on like a scary, fun note.
Like gotcha.
And then I have like Mark Patton and Kim Myers like screaming next to each other, all like dramatic as like the hand like pops out of her chest is fun. And I do like visually the look of Freddy at the beginning when the bus is like teetering on that thing, and he's walking
up to the girls
and scraping the seat with his glove, like going past you see with like it's visually really interesting.
And it's also like it's like one of the only 2 times. I think Final Nightmare is the only other one where you see Freddy and where you actually see Robert Englund in non-makeup. Remember, he's the bus driver.
He's driving the bus. Yeah.
So it's kind of cool. It's like a little Easter egg. Like it's like you maybe don't catch it on first watch or something, or maybe you do, but it's something that's fun to pick up. Like, oh, that's Robert Englund, like non-makeup in that scene.
Yeah, and then the score, Charles Bronson score is like really good. I don't know. I I hate to call it an underrated horror movie score because I know people that love horror movies know the nightmare themes and all that stuff. But there's this score, and I like Christopher Nolan's music because I love his music for Hellraiser. Because Christopher Nolan's music for
Yeah.
Hellraiser is very good. But for here, it just felt like there was no real big themes in the movie, music wise.
No, just like little
It felt like a generic horror movie score, I guess.
But I guess he just didn't want to like. I respect him for not trying to replicate the one from the first, because that when you're taking over scoring a film, like for especially in a franchise or even a sequel, like it's such a cheap cop out where you just like, oh, let me just recreate what worked in the first film. It's like it doesn't give you, like when I like the fact that he tried to have his own spin of it, give it his own flavor, his own identity, as opposed to just replicating what worked in the first.
Yeah. And I guess another thing I wanted to ask you before we score it is, even though I've come to enjoy the movie, it's in your top 4.
4, yeah.
But do you feel that part 3 feels more like a proper sequel to the first movie, or do you kind of like still? Because like it's not like they ignore. I guess it's not like they ignore part 2, but they just don't really mention it.
No, it's essentially. Well, we've seen that with a lot of horror movies where it's like, oh, we're bringing back the original cast, so let's like just screw. Yeah. It's like no offense, like when A2O kind of ignores 3, 4, and 5, the Thorn trilogy. Yeah. So like, Dream Warriors is my favorite horror sequel ever. Period. So I definitely do see it as like I said, obviously you could because the way you can see the Nightmare franchise similar to the way you do different timelines for Halloween. Like you could just, if you just want, you could just literally see it as a Nightmare on Elm Street, Dream Warriors, and New Nightmare, which is the 3 that have Heather Landerkamp and has Wes Craven. And has Wes Craven involved. Like Wes Craven directed 2 of them and co-wrote part 3 with Frank Darabont.
Yeah.
Like I don't like I said, I like part 2, but part 3 feels like the proper sequel per se, because it carries on from the first, has the original team back in some ways, and it's like, but yeah, like part 3 is definitely the proper sequel to the first, but it's like this is still a fun one.
Yeah, I agree, and you're right. You can like kind of you can watch these any way you want. If you want to watch, you can do 1, 3 New Nightmare. You can also do 1,
the whole
3,
franchise
4, because like the characters, some of the characters from 3 come back and forth, so we can dispatch them and like we get new characters. So like there is, I think I've always said this, even though I may not love Dream Child or Freddy's Dead, I have issues with Dream Master following Dream Warriors, because Dream Warriors is so strong. Even though I think Dream Master is fun.
Yeah, because like they killed Kincaid and then they replaced Patricia Arquette as like.
Yeah, and then there's a big ballyhoo about why that was. Was she too busy, or did she not really enjoy working with Chuck Russell? Because they do say that Chuck Russell, because he was a young director on 3, that there was a lot of tension on set as far.
I didn't know. That was just like more like a money thing.
I think it was a money thing, and that she was busy. And then there's some missed opportunities in 4. Her brother getting taken out, and that the original concept for how her brother was supposed to die in that movie, but they didn't have the money for the whole like elevator dream sequence, and then they had to do this whole like invisible like
karate. Yeah, I just learned that it was a budget thing. Like I want to say like sometime in October, somebody posted a video where they're like, oh, the reason he's not finding stuff is because they didn't have the money to bring. I think it was a practical effects or to give Robert Englund more days, something like that, right?
Yeah. So Andres Jones said that like he knew that they changed it and they were gonna add this kind of like karate thing, right? And he said he spent all this time training, and then I guess Rennie Harlan was like, "Oh no, we're not gonna do any of that." So he's like, they just changed it to all these like wide, like kind of like these broad, like really like he's like, this isn't like karate, and he's like, I'm doing, like this is like I'm doing like basically like street fighting, like MMA, like almost in this. Like he's like, but whatever. They were like, it's karate. I will go with it. And he said that he does wish that he could have been killed on screen by Robert Englund, Freddy Krueger, but it was a thing that was ran out of money. But the original concept for him and this kind of like elevator dream, like it like kind of dropping, and it's like visually it was supposed to look really cool. they just ran out of money for it and couldn't do it, so they had to.
But that sucks a lot because that happened a lot with so much 80s horror. Because like for
Yeah.
as fun as they are, they were also made on low budget. So it's just go off the side with like with Chris Stuckman. Like I like the fact that he said like when Neon came on board, they read his original script and they saw there was some stuff that he didn't get to film because when he originally made the movie, he made it on like $1.2 million only. And it's like I like the fact that he said that Neon allowed him to reshoot some scenes that he wanted to, that they were allowed to give him the budget too. Because like I said, like a lot of 80s horror movies were sometimes pigeonholed and not being able to fully like expand on their ideas because of the budget. Yeah. So like elevator kill would have definitely been better than Invisible Kung Fu or whatever.
Definitely. I say all to say I still think creatively, story wise, this franchise as a whole is better than
it's my second favorite horror. It's my second favorite horror franchise.
At least in execution, it tries to be more than just like a series of like chase and stalk scenes. They're like it's smarter than it gets credit for too. So so even with like 2 not feeling like a proper sequel to some, it's still it's not like the series as a whole expresses that it's not canon at all. Like they could have easily they don't really like mention, even though they don't mention the events of 2, they don't necessarily
it does feel the most disconnected one.
Yeah, it does. But they don't necessarily say that, hey, maybe Nancy did get a little crazy after high school. Then she got her shit together and like she became like a doctor, psychologist. Look at that, because it still happened. Her mom did commit suicide. They just don't mention that her dad became like a drunkard and like whatever. So like it could, if it would have been made today, if 3 were made today, it would have been a much bigger hullabaloo and like the fucking media. It would have been like, we're gonna ignore. If they would have made 3 today, they would have been like, "Oh, we're gonna ignore 2." They would have actually put that in like a press release. So like we're ignoring number 2. Like it didn't happen, and this is a proper sequel. But they didn't do that back in the 80s. They were just like, "All right, we're just gonna like put 2 years in between the movies." So like maybe that's enough time for people not to even think about like what happened into, and like let's just do something different. And the series was better for it because Dream Warriors is. Out of the mainline Nightmare movies, it's the best sequel.
Oh, easy.
I go back and forth about whether it's a better film than New. I think New Nightmare is a better film than Dream Warriors, but like
Wes Craven is a better director than Chuck Russell.
Yeah, but it is my favorite like mainline sequel of that franchise. And then like you saw, it's my second. I think I rated my second favorite horror movie sequel.
Oh, yeah, it's my number. Like I just love it because like
I have to stream too. So like it was perfectly executed for what that series needed after part 2.
And it's literally essentially like X-Men almost in a way.
Yeah.
Like it's like the mental institution is literally like if it was like the X-Men Academy and stuff like that.
You're in school for gifted young.
Like I love the dream sequels when they all have their powers. Like that movie is incredible.
Yeah, but I think two has its charms. I'm glad that it found life after
for sure
years and not being kind of ridiculed as like a substandard sequel. I think its IMDb rating is like way too low. I think it's like a 5.5 out of 10. I think that
I checked the Rotten Tomato audience score is 33%. I'm like, are you freaking kidding me?
And I think that's like some people that are scoring it that either don't know the movie's history or don't really care to know the movie's history.
Or are homophobes.
Are homophobes. Yeah. But yeah, I'm surprised by how low those scores were, especially like because sometimes you'll see movies like this that were lowly rated on IMDb, and maybe it has gone up a little bit
from when initially, probably. Like I said, the audience score is still somebody. I would have thought, like when I saw it was like a 44 for critics, I thought the audience score was gonna be higher. Yeah. So when I saw it was lower, I'm like, that's interesting because I would have thought the audience would have been kinder to it than the critics. Yeah.
All right. So what are you? We got the point where we score these movies. What will be your score for Nightmare on Elm Street 2 Freddy's Revenge? Says a weird title.
Yeah, like it's like who's getting revenge on. I mean, but it's like what is the alternative? Like Freddy's back, maybe?
Yeah. Or just like Nightmare on Elm Street Part 2. I don't know.
It's true because it's like back then, like horror movies didn't have like no like subtitle to it. Like it was just Texas Chainsaw Part 2.
Halloween 2 is Halloween 2. I know they have the little thing that says the nightmare isn't over, but that's not the official title. It's just Halloween 2.
It's just Halloween 2, like season of the after, yeah, because Return of Michael Myers was after this, so I feel like after this is because it's like because like Friday the 13th part 1, 2, and 3, and there's like final chapter was obviously because it was trying to be the final movie, but then like 85 was when all these like subtitles for it started happening.
Adding subtitles, all right, what do we want to give it?
I'm at a 3.5. Like this is like I really enjoy it. Like I said, like my biggest pet peeve is honestly just the pool sequence, and obviously some of the writing stuff and the performance aren't the greatest, but it's a lot of fun. Has, like I said, the Grady's kill is probably like I've never done a ranking, but it's probably like that top 10, top 15 kills for me in the whole franchise. Like I really love that.
Robert Russell's really good in that scene. I know we didn't really mention how good he is in that scene, but like
like he's really starting to feel like when he's knocking on the door,
and he can tell that he's not gonna make it. Like you can see that all over his face.
And then his dad's reaction when he sees the knife.
Come through the door. Really good. I'm gonna same score as you, and this is someone that would have before giving it 3.5.
But it would have like a 2.5 or 3.
In recent times, it would have been like a 2.5 back in the day. So I would have been like, this is not so good. But like I said, like you need like this movie in particular, I think needs all the backstory that we get from
the backstory definitely adds.
Yeah, and you learn a lot about what was maybe going on when they were making it, and what Mark Patton had to endure while making it, and then also I guess in the end what it means for people that love it now. I mean, every one of these movies is a. I know Dream Warriors is the overall fan favorite sequel, but like every one of these sequels has a subsection of fans, and this one has a pretty big following. This is like one of those movies that you can probably see at like some crazy fun midnight showings.
Because honestly, I feel like the only one that doesn't really have a big fan base is this Final Nightmare and the remake. Because I know a lot of people that really like Dream Child, and obviously I know a lot of people that love Freddy versus Jason.
Because Dream Child at least has some fun death scenes and like.
I like that the whole is it, I don't know, I haven't seen it in a long time, but is it the beginning or the end when it's like all the little Freddy heads in the stomach, like the children of Freddy's?
So in I'm trying to remember because part 4 is when like all the people.
Oh, was that? So that's the end of part 4. My bad.
All the people are coming at him, but like I forgot how he dies in Dream Child. I now want to look it up.
Yeah, because I only this Halloween I only rewatched 2, 3, and New Nightmare.
Because I haven't watched it in so long. But let me see.
But I guess that confused them because Alicia's in both of them. So I just remember her being included in the scene. So I thought it was the beginning of 5.
Yeah, Jacob destroys Freddy and in his infant form is absorbed by his mother while Alice picks up baby Jacob, warning Alice away. Amanda seals Freddy away in time. I think at one point, I guess Freddy kind of pop his hand or something pops out of the mother's stomach, I guess, and imply that he is kind of like, but she does run away to kind of tug him away. But yeah, part 4 is that really cool practical effect of like
the cockroach scene is so good.
All the souls breaking out of him at the end of it, and the cockroach scene is really cool. Part 4, but yeah, still think it's a solid. Part 2 is still solid. You guys, if you haven't seen it or want to reassess it, it's a good one to reassess. And what better time to do it as it celebrates its 40th anniversary?
It's on HBO.
Yep. And for those who are wondering, JC, what's going on with the movies? Because I think the last time you were on the show, you had still had the page before you took a break and then got and I think that you were on. You still had the page when you were on the show last. But then,
I think the last thing I did was Talents of Mr. Ripley. That was my last episode.
Yeah. But yeah, tell everyone what's going on.
Like just my usual stuff. Like I post movie news about like big indies, big movies. I never really discriminate, and I do a lot of anniversary reviews, and like 90, 95, 85. I have a lot of great movies like Back to the Future, Leaving Las Vegas, Apollo 13. So I've done a few of those. There's still a lot of like big hitters coming out. Oh, in the 1980, you have Raging Bull and a few The Shining. So I'm doing a lot of anniversary reviews this year because the movie year hasn't been the greatest. So there's still like there's so it's
October was rough.
Yeah, so so I've been focusing more on anniversary reviews this year. So it's like obviously there's a lot of great anniversaries this year. So a little bit of that. And my page you can find movie reviews on a lot of I love recommending like a little less seen movies. So you can find a little bit of everything on my page.
Nice. And then we will also throw a link up to your page as always. Just a few little things to I guess announce as we're wrapping up. By the time you hear this episode, you already heard on the show we had Cameron Burns on, who is a producer on Shelby Oaks, who sat with myself and Ty.
I gotta listen to that one.
Yeah, that will be we're recording. This is November 4th. Right
yeah,
now. That'll be out this Friday.
Can't wait.
Recording for you to listen to, JC. But we talked to him, me and Ty Ippolito, who will be a permanent co-host on our spinoff, the Movie Vault. That'll be actually launching on December 8th, I believe. We're getting graphics and stuff together and new cover art for that prepared. But that interview with a producer and will be kind of a hint on what Back to Blockbuster will be, the main show at least moving forward. Will be strictly news and like an interview style based show, while the Movie Vault will be more something like this, talking about specific movies. So I know we were supposed to do Red Eye at one point, but that's another good Movie Vault pick. So if you want to still do that this year, we can still do that.
Yeah, sure. Just let me know.
To kind of get episodes for the Movie Vault started. But yeah, we want to do more stuff like that. So if you guys ever, if you're listening or know anyone that, works in the industry, like especially independent film is a good place to start because, everyone's looking for that kind of exposure to kind of get the word out on their movies. So if you know of anything, just send us a DM. Anyone that we can talk to, whether they're producers, directors, writers, actors, whatever it may be, that's kind of what we want on Back to Blockbuster moving forward. And hopefully you think myself and Ty did a good job breaking down Shelby Oaks with Cameron, because it was a really interesting conversation, the kind of like start to finish of where that began and where it kind of ended up. It's a true success story of like just really why independent filmmaking is so important and why it's important to have people back it. And especially, and then that whole concept of like not having enough money at first and then getting the money you need to kind of like push things along. Like you mentioned earlier, like the whole Neon and Mike Flanagan getting on board with that movie changed that movie's course a lot. So there's a lot of stuff that we want to talk about in regards to that on the show with independent filmmakers, and we'll do more of that very soon. As always, you can listen to us wherever you get your podcast, whether it's Apple Podcasts, Good Pods, Overcast, Spotify, wherever you want to listen to us. But also you can find us in the Playlist Studio app. You can get in the Google Play Store or the iOS store. And as always, thank you, JC, for joining us in here. It's been a while since you've been on, but you haven't lost your touch. It was a very engaging conversation, and I'm glad that we could talk about all aspects of A Nightmare on Elm Street Part 2, Freddy's Revenge, because it certainly is an interesting one, and I'm glad we were able to break it down from like the silly horror movie aspect of it, but also
to the more personal background
story. Yeah, so I really appreciate the conversation, and as always, whatever you want to be on, feel free to always let us know, and I will probably be messaging you about once you can be back on too as well. So, yeah, always a pleasure, guys, and until next time, peace out.